She didn't even let me kill the engine. The second my tires rolled onto the gravel access lane that's been part of my deed since 1998. Linda Whitaker from the HOA had her phone glued to her ear. Voice dripping fake concern, yes. Officer. He's trespassing on community property again and refusing to comply. What she didn't know, what her little clipboard empire was about to learn the hard way, was that 5 minutes earlier I'd already pulled the county records that proved her precious HOA had zero legal right to touch that lane. One radio call from the deputy later. Her smile evaporated. Her authority imploded. And the woman who'd spent 2 years terrorizing the neighborhood with standards suddenly looked very small. Whispering Pines was the kind of suburban neighborhood that looked perfect in real estate photos, manicured lawns, identical beige houses, kids on bikes, flags waving like we were all in a Hallmark movie. But scratch the surface and it was a pressure cooker of invisible rules enforced by people who got off on control. I'm Ethan Brooks. 42. Divorced. Graphic designer who works from home and restores classic motorcycles on the side. Nothing flashy. I keep to myself. Pay my taxes. And try not to bother anyone. That last part apparently made me public enemy number 1. See? 2 years ago I'd politely questioned why the HOA was fining a widow $250 for having her American flag up too long. Linda Whitaker, president. Self-appointed guardian of property values. And professional pearl clutcher, took it personally. Within weeks the whispers started, Ethan's difficult. He doesn't care about the community. His workshop is an eyesore, probably bringing the whole street down. None of it was true. But truth never travels as fast as a Karen with a group chat. I stayed quiet. Smiled. Nodded. Paid the stupid $75 late fee on a grass length violation when my mower broke for 3 days. Inside. I watched. I documented. And I waited. The real war started over the access lane. My house sits at the end of the cul-de-sac. Behind it runs a narrow gravel service lane that's been on my property survey since before Whispering Pines was even platted. The easement is ironclad, recorded. Never transferred. Never amended. The HOA formed in 2005. My rights were from 1998. But Linda decided the lane was community maintained and therefore under her divine rule. She started sending notices that my commercial vehicles, my F-250 and the occasional flatbed delivering motorcycle parts, were damaging aesthetics and violating noise ordinances. First came the polite letters. Then the not-so-polite ones. Then the fines stacked like Jenga blocks. $150 for unauthorized use of common area, $300 for visual blight, $500 final warning because I dared to unload a crate of chrome exhaust pipes at 10 a.m. on a Saturday. I didn't argue in public. I just kept records in a folder that grew thicker than a phone book. Every letter. Every time-stamped photo of her little minions trespassing to snap pictures of my garage. Every time a new camera appeared on the HOA fence line angled straight into my backyard workshop. Linda loved those cameras. She'd walk the neighborhood in her pastel cardigans. Clipboard bouncing against her hip like a sidearm. Telling anyone who'd listen. We have to protect our investment. Folks. Standards matter. She said it with that sweet southern lilt that made it sound almost reasonable, until you realized the standards only applied when she felt like it. One Tuesday I came home to find 3 HOA board members literally standing in my driveway taking measurements of my truck. When I asked what the hell they were doing, the oldest one smiled like a church lady and said, "Just documenting. Mr. Brooks. For the record. I took my own photos. They scattered like roaches when I pulled out my phone. The neighborhood started treating me like I had the plague. Waves became half nods. Conversations died the second I walked into the community mailbox area. Someone even started a rumor I was running an illegal chop shop because I had a 1969 Harley in pieces on a tarp. Linda never corrected it. Why would she? Fear is free marketing for tyrants. I kept my mouth shut and my cameras rolling, my own cameras. Legally on my property. Every time she or her flying monkeys crossed the property line, I had it on 4K. The morning everything exploded was a Thursday in late spring. I'd been in town picking up a new set of forks for a restoration job. Big delivery. Heavy pallet. I turned onto the access lane. Same as I'd done 1,000 times. When I saw her, Linda was already standing at the edge of the lane in full battle regalia, khakis, visor, clipboard, and that smug little smile that said she'd been waiting. She didn't wave me down. She just lifted her phone the second my bumper crossed the invisible line she'd drawn in her head. I killed the engine and stepped out. Morning. Linda. Something I can help you with? She spoke loud enough for the whole cul-de-sac to hear. This is a recorded line. I'm informing you that you are on HOA-controlled property without authorization. You need to leave immediately or I will have no choice but to involve law enforcement. I almost laughed. Almost. Instead I leaned against my truck and said, Sunday morning. Linda. This lane is on my deed. Has been since before your HOA even existed. You know that. Her smile never wavered. The board has reviewed the matter. Our covenants supersede prior easements. For the safety and harmony of the community, we're enforcing temporary restrictions until you comply. Temporary. That word again. The same word they used when they tried to ban my truck for 30 days last winter. I just nodded. All right. Call whoever you need to call. She did. Right there in front of God, the neighbors, and the Ring cameras that half the street had installed to spy on each other. By the time the sheriff's deputy rolled up, a small crowd had gathered. People pretending to water flowers that didn't need watering. Kids on bikes circling like vultures. Linda was in full performance mode, voice trembling with manufactured concern. Gesturing at my truck like it was a biohazard. Officer. Thank you for coming so quickly. This resident has repeatedly violated our covenants. He's using this access road for commercial purposes. Ignoring multiple notices. And now he's refusing to leave HOA property. The deputy, a tired-looking guy named Ramirez, looked at her. Then at me. Sir. What's your side? I kept my voice even. This is my property. Deputy. Recorded easement from 1998. The HOA was formed in 2005. They have no authority over this lane. Linda jumped in. Voice rising an octave. That's simply not accurate. Our legal counsel has reviewed. I reached into the truck. Pulled out the folder I'd been carrying for months. And handed the deputy the top document. This is the original recorded easement. County stamped. Never transferred. Never extinguished. And here's the plat map showing the HOA boundaries stop 10 feet before my lane begins. Deputy Ramirez studied the papers. The cul-de-sac got very quiet. Linda's smile finally cracked. Those documents are outdated. The covenants clearly state. Ma'am, Ramirez said without looking up. Covenants don't override recorded property rights. He stepped away. Radioed the county clerk. And asked for verification on the easement. The silence that followed was beautiful. You could hear sprinklers ticking in the distance and someone's golden retriever barking 2 houses down. Linda's face went through the 5 stages of grief in 30 seconds flat. First denial, she kept repeating our counsel assured us, then anger, her voice got shrill, this is harassment. He's been nothing but trouble since day one. Bargaining, she actually tried to appeal to the deputy, officer. Think of the property values. Depression, her shoulders started to sag as the radio crackled back. Then acceptance. Or at least the horrifying realization that acceptance was coming whether she liked it or not. Ramirez lowered the radio. County confirms the easement is valid and active. HOA has no jurisdiction over access. Ma'am, you cannot block this resident from his own property. And calling us to enforce rules you don't have the right to enforce is a misuse of law enforcement resources. The clipboard slipped from Linda's hands and hit the gravel with a pathetic little clatter. Violation notices. Warning letters. And one very sad-looking final notice scattered in the breeze. Her face, God. It was glorious. The self-righteous mask shattered. For the first time in 2 years. She looked exactly like what she was, a middle-aged woman who'd gotten drunk on borrowed power and just woke up with the worst hangover of her life. The neighbors didn't even pretend anymore. Phones came out. Someone actually laughed, quickly covered by a cough. But we all heard it. What happened next was the most satisfying slow-motion car crash I've ever witnessed. By sunset the county had sent an official letter freezing all HOA enforcement actions related to my property. By the end of the week, 3 board members resigned for personal reasons. Linda tried to hold an emergency meeting to address the situation. Only 7 people showed up. The rest suddenly remembered they had dentist appointments. The group chat that used to light up with her daily edicts went silent. Then the questions started. Real questions. About the $87,000 the HOA had spent on beautification that nobody could account for. About all the other temporary restrictions that had quietly ruined people's lives. Linda's reign ended the way all paper dictatorships do, quietly. Pathetically. And in full view of everyone she'd bullied. She still lives in Whispering Pines. Last I saw her she was power walking in the opposite direction when she spotted me at the mailboxes. The visor was gone. The clipboard too. Just a woman who'd learned the hard way that rules only work when they're backed by actual law. Not ego. Me? I still restore bikes. The access lane is quiet now. Neighbors wave again, some sheepish. Some genuinely friendly. A few have even started asking real questions at the annual meeting instead of just nodding along. The lesson here is simple but brutal. Give a certain type of person the smallest taste of authority and they'll weaponize it until someone finally says no with paperwork. And when that happens, the fall isn't loud. It's awkward. Embarrassing. And permanent. So here's the question I want you to answer honestly in the comments. Was Linda Whitaker just a dedicated volunteer trying to protect property values, or was she a textbook power-tripping Karen who finally met the one guy who kept receipts? And more importantly, have you ever dealt with an HOA that crossed the line like this? Tell me your story. Because the more of us who speak up, the harder it gets for the next clipboard tyrant to hide behind community standards. I'll be reading every single one.